How did this kid with a goofy smile and a straw hat go from floating alone in a wooden barrel in the middle of the ocean to, well, this?
You did it.
Well, you can blame it on a very strange fruit and a dream that's honestly way too big for a guy who can't even swim. That's right, I'm talking about One Piece. The series that finally broke the curse of bad anime adaptations by being actually genuinely incredible. So I thought, why not lose my mind by binge-watching the entire first season and creating a massive recap video for you guys. Let's get right into it. Episode 1, Romance Dawn. The very first episode of One Piece takes us back 22 years into the past, to Logtown, where the most infamous pirate in the world, Gold Roger, is about to be executed. He's led onto a massive platform in front of a huge crowd, while Marine Vice Admiral Garp oversees the entire thing. After Garp gives the death sentence, someone in the crowd yells the one question everyone wants answered.
Where is your treasure? Tell us where you hid it!
And just like that, he's stabbed by the executioners. The crowd completely loses it. Pirates everywhere get inspired and Roger dies laughing, while Garp looks deeply concerned. These final words officially kick off what becomes known as the Great Pirate Era. Now we jump to the present day, where we meet Monkey D. Luffy, a cheerful kid talking to a news coup about his dream of becoming a pirate. He wants to sail the seas, build a crew, and live in the era that Gold Roger started, something he learned about from a pirate named Shanks. Luffy even asks the bird to join his crew, but the news coup immediately flies away. Rude. Anyway, Luffy is currently stranded on a tiny dinghy that's rapidly filling with water. When he realizes the boat is completely doomed, he hops into a barrel. The boat sinks, the barrel floats, and Luffy drifts away into the ocean. Solid plan. That barrel eventually drifts straight into a naval battle between the Alvida pirates and a passenger ship. During the chaos, the barrel is pulled aboard Alvida's ship, the Miss Love Duck. Alvida, a massive and extremely self-obsessed pirate captain, takes over the passenger boat and rounds up prisoners. She demands to know if anyone on board has seen the bounty hunter Roronoa Zoro because she thinks he's hunting her. One man admits they transported Zoro to Sixus Island, but mentioned that Alvida wasn't even on Zoro's hit list. This absolutely enrages her and she kills the man with her duck-shaped club. She then orders her cabin boy, Koby, to clean up the mess. Yep, great work, environment. Later that night, while Koby is cleaning the bloody club below deck, he hears noises coming from inside the barrel. As he approaches, Luffy suddenly bursts out, scaring the life out of him. Luffy quickly shuts Koby up and starts rummaging through storage for food. Koby explains that they're on a pirate ship, and Luffy casually reveals that he's a pirate too, which completely surprises Koby, because Luffy is nothing like the violent brutes on Alvida's crew. Luffy explains that the pirates he grew up admiring weren't like this at all. 10 years ago, in Windmill Village, he looked up to the Red Hair Pirates and their captain, Shanks, who used to often visit. Luffy wanted to join their crew, but Shanks always refused. To prove how tough he was, Luffy even stabbed himself under his right eye. Back in the present, Luffy tells Koby his dream.
Your loyal crew by your side. You never know what's in the horizon.
Koby is shocked, especially since the Grand Line is known as the Pirate Graveyard and because he himself is basically a slave on Alvida's ship. With the crew asleep, Koby urges Luffy to escape while they still can. The two sneak onto the deck, but Luffy accidentally smacks a bell with an oar, waking everyone up. Alvida storms out, furious, and assumes Luffy is a bounty hunter hired by Koby. Luffy immediately tells her exactly what he thinks of her, including everything Koby has ever said about her behind her back. Naturally, Alvida loses it and attacks. One pirate shoots Luffy, but the bullet bounces right off his body and flies back. This is where we see that Luffy can stretch his body like rubber and dodge attacks. During the chaos, Alvida accidentally sets her own ship on fire and tries to kill Koby for it. Luffy blocks her attack with his head, winds his arm way back, and smashes her with a move called Gum Gum Pistol, sending her flying overboard. With their captain gone, the crew immediately surrenders. Luffy grabs supplies and decides that Koby is coming with him. Meanwhile, on Sixus island, we meet Roronoa Zoro, who is kneeling at a shrine paying respects to someone from his past. He's approached by a man named Mr. Seven, who reveals that he's been following Zoro and wants to recruit him into an assassin organization called Baroque Works. But Zoro isn't impressed. He mocks the offer and rejects it outright. Mr. Seven attacks him, and after a brief fight, Zoro cuts him clean in half. Yeah, recruitment denied. The next day, Luffy and Koby sail together in a small rowboat. Koby asks how Luffy's body stretches, and Luffy explains that 10 years ago, he accidentally ate a devil fruit. We jump back to that flashback where Luffy is hanging out with the red hair pirates in a bar. Shanks still refuses to take him along, pointing out that Luffy can't even swim. While sulking, Luffy finds a strange fruit in a treasure chest and eats it. Around the same time, a group of mountain bandits led by Higuma causes trouble at the bar. Shanks calmly apologizes and cleans up after them, which makes Luffy furious. He calls Shanks a coward, thinking real men should fight back. As Luffy storms out, Shanks grabs him and Luffy's arm stretches like rubber.
Wait, Luffy.
That's when it's revealed he ate the Gum Gum fruit, turning his body into rubber. Back in the present, Koby quickly realizes Luffy has no map and no navigation skills whatsoever. Things get worse when Koby admits his dream is to become a Marine. That's when Luffy decides they'll go to a Marine base so Koby can join and Luffy can steal a map to the Grand Line. But Koby, well, let's just say he isn't thrilled. We also meet Nami, a clever thief stranded on a small boat with a treasure chest. She tricks two pirates into helping her, steals their ship, and sails off while they're left stranded. Luffy and Koby arrive at Shellstown, home of the Marine 153rd Branch. Inside a bar, Zoro and Nami are also present. A little girl named Rika offers Zoro some rice balls, but Helmeppo, the spoiled son of Marine Captain Morgan, knocks them to the ground. Zoro eats one anyway and tells Helmeppo to apologize. This quickly turns into a fight, where Zoro easily defeats Helmeppo and the Marines without even using the sharp edges of his swords. During the chaos, Nami steals a Marine uniform. Zoro is brought to Captain Morgan, who admires his strength and offers him a position as a Marine. Although Zoro refuses, he agrees to serve 7 days in prison so he can still collect bounties. Meanwhile, Luffy gets an idea on how to sneak into the base after spotting a sewer pipe. The next day, Helmeppo reveals that Morgan never planned to free Zoro. At the same time, Nami sneaks into the base, disguised as a Marine, while Luffy pops out of a sewer near Zoro. Luffy asks Zoro to join his crew, but Zoro refuses, explaining his dream of becoming the world's greatest swordsman. Respecting that dream, Luffy unties him anyway. Inside the base, Nami searches for a map, but is exposed as an imposter. Luffy literally drops in from the ceiling, and after some quick talking, the two team up. They break into Morgan's office, trigger a hidden safe, and just barely escape when Morgan attacks. Luffy rips the safe out of the floor, launching himself and Nami out a window. Outside, Luffy, Zoro, and Nami fight the Marines together. Morgan proves to be strong, but Zoro reveals his three-sword style, pinning Morgan down while Luffy finishes him with a Gum Gum whip. With the map secured, the trio head back to Luffy's boat and Luffy calls them a crew, but I don't think they enjoy hearing that. Helmeppo shows up to arrest them, but Koby knocks him out instead. Koby decides to stay behind and become a Marine, choosing his own path for the first time. Luffy supports him and the two part ways as friends. Finally, Marine Vice Admiral Garp receives word that a pirate in a straw hat stole a map to the Grand Line. He takes the news very seriously. Meanwhile, a pirate named Kabaji reports the same information to his captain, Buggy, who immediately starts plotting to steal the map for himself. And just like that, the journey begins. Episode 2, The Man in the Straw Hat. Episode 2 takes us 10 years back into the past, once again at Party's bar. Luffy is excitedly testing out his new Gum Gum powers, stretching his arms around the room while Makino tries to explain what just happened to him. She tells Luffy about the devil fruits, explaining that no two are the same and that eating one is basically making a deal with the devil. You gain a supernatural power, but in return, the sea rejects you completely. You lose the ability to swim. Shanks walks in mid-explanation and Luffy excitedly talks to him about his powers. More of the red hair pirates arrive, announcing that they've stocked up on months' worth of supplies for their next voyage. Luffy asks Shanks when he'll be coming back. Shanks tells him he won't be. Back in the present day, Luffy is goofing off on the boat while Nami tries to quietly break into Morgan's safe. She tells him to stay still so that she can focus, but at one point she shoves him aside, nearly sending his straw hat flying into the ocean. Luffy immediately panics and tells her to not touch it, making it clear the hat is the most important thing he owns. Eventually, Nami cracks the safe and pulls out the map to the Grand Line. Luffy admits he has absolutely no idea where the Grand Line even is, so Nami draws him a simple map of the world. She explains that the Grand Line is the most dangerous stretch of ocean there is, and casually adds that she doesn't even believe the One Piece is even real. Luffy unsurprisingly doesn't care. He's still going to find it. Suddenly, cannon fire erupts around them. A ship approaches and releases a strange red gas that quickly surrounds the boat. The trio collapse one by one, losing consciousness. But just before Luffy blacks out, he sees a Jolly Roger flying from the attacking ship. Luffy, Zoro, and Nami wake up stuffed inside a wooden crate. Nami assumes they were captured by the Marines, but Luffy tells her it was pirates, thanks to the flag he saw. The crate is opened, and they're lowered directly into the middle of a circus performance. They're surrounded by the buggy pirates, performing for an audience of terrified citizens who are chained to their seats and forced to cheer on command. The show comes to a halt as the captain makes his entrance. Buggy reveals that he's after the same thing they are: the map to the Grand Line, the One Piece, and the title of Pirate King. To create a distraction, Nami forces Luffy to reveal his Devil Fruit powers, stretching him out in front of the crowd. While Buggy is distracted, Nami makes a run for it, escaping the tent. But once outside, she freezes. Orange Town has been completely destroyed. Buildings are flattened, the streets are empty, and the entire place looks abandoned. Before she can even react, Buggy's men catch her and drag her back inside. Buggy orders Zoro and Nami to be taken to the Green Room while he stays behind to interrogate Luffy about the map. Back in Shell's Town, Vice Admiral Garp arrives at the Marine base with Bogard. Captain Morgan explains what happened, claiming that he successfully scared the pirates away, even though they still managed to escape with the map. Standing among the Marines are Koby, who officially enlisted that morning, and Helmeppo. Morgan publicly blames Helmeppo for the pirates' escape while praising Koby for saving his son. Later, Koby is summoned to Morgan's office, where Garp questions him directly. Garp reveals that Koby was seen with Luffy before the attack and is suspected of being a mole. Koby chooses to tell the truth. He explains how he was kidnapped by Alvida, how Luffy freed him, and how it's always been his dream to become a Marine. He even says that one day he plans to bring pirates like Luffy to justice. Garp listens, accepts his answer, and tells Koby that from now on he'll be assisting in the hunt for the Straw Hat Pirate. Back in Orange Town, Zoro is tied to a spinning wheel while Nami is locked inside a bird cage. Zoro doesn't trust her after she ran earlier, but with no better option, the two agree to work together. A pirate named Kabaji enters the room and introduces himself to Zoro, revealing that Zoro once killed his brother for a bounty. Zoro doesn't remember him at all, which only makes Kabaji angrier. He begins a twisted game, throwing knives at Zoro while the wheel spins faster and faster. Meanwhile, Buggy has Luffy strapped to a stretching device in the center of the circus tent. It's meant to torture him, but Luffy's rubber body makes it mostly useless. As Buggy talks, he notices Luffy's straw hat and immediately recognizes it. He reveals that he and Shanks once sailed together as kids on the same pirate crew. Buggy claims that Shanks betrayed him and asks Luffy if he was betrayed too. Luffy angrily denies it. To prove a point, Buggy grabs a young boy from the audience and tries to put him in the device instead. Luffy breaks free, punches Buggy straight in the face, and sends his head flying clean off his body. The crowd panics, thinking Buggy is dead, but seconds later, Buggy's head starts talking. He reveals that he ate a devil fruit too, the Chop Chop fruit, which lets him separate his body parts at will. Buggy's detached hand flies behind Luffy's head and sets off a gas bomb, knocking him out cold. The show then takes us 10 years back, where Higuma and his bandits return to Party's bar, demanding drinks. Luffy finally snaps and confronts Higuma over how he treated Shanks. Higuma grabs Luffy, ready to teach him a lesson. That's when Shanks steps in and calmly tells him to let the kid go. The bandits laugh him off, still not taking him seriously. Then, without warning, Lucky Roo shoots one of them. A fight breaks out instantly, and Shanks' crew completely overwhelms the bandits. In the chaos, Higuma escapes with Luffy and flees out to sea. Out on the water, Higuma prepares to kill Luffy, but a massive sea king, the Lord of the Coast, rises from the depths and capsizes the boat. The creature eats Higuma whole, while Luffy sinks beneath the surface, unable to swim. Shanks arrives just in time, diving into the water to save him. The Sea King lunges at them, but Shanks stares it down and tells it to leave. Somehow, it listens. When Luffy realizes Shanks lost his left arm in the attack, he broke down. Shanks doesn't care. He's just glad Luffy is safe. Back in the present, Luffy wakes up inside a glass tank that's slowly filling with seawater. Buggy offers to spare him if he joins his crew, but Luffy refuses, even as the water rises and his strength fades. In the green room, Kabaji continues throwing knives at Zoro, one of which loosens the rope binding his wrist. While Kabaji stays focused on Zoro, Nami finally frees herself, ambushes him and knocks him out. Zoro breaks free and the two grab their weapons before heading back into the tent. They reach the stage just as Nami smashes the glass tank with her staff, freeing Luffy. He coughs up seawater and the map, but Buggy grabs it while Luffy is distracted trying to get his hat back. Zoro attacks Buggy, but his blades pass straight through him. Buggy splits his entire body apart, flying through the air and slamming the trio from every direction. He pins Luffy down by the neck and pierces the straw hat with his hand. That's when Luffy notices a pile of empty chests nearby. He calls out a plan and the three work together, knocking Buggy's flying body parts into the chests and slamming them shut. One by one, Buggy loses the ability to reassemble himself. Eventually, only Buggy's head, hands, and feet remain. Luffy stretches both arms back and finishes it with a Gum Gum Bazooka, launching Buggy out of the tent and off the island. With the fight over, Luffy frees the people of Orangetown from their chains, making it clear he's not there to rule them, but he's there to set them free. Later, the trio sail away as the citizens thank them. Luffy remembers the last time he saw Shanks, back when the Red Hair Pirates were leaving Windmill Village for good. Luffy told Shanks he would stay behind, build his own crew, and one day surpass him. Shanks smiled, placed his straw hat on Luffy's head, and told him to return it once he became strong. Back in Shellstown, Garp addresses the Marines with Morgan tied up in front of them for lying. Garp makes it clear that corruption won't be tolerated and officially announces a manhunt for Straw Hat Luffy. Koby listens, torn between loyalty and friendship. As Luffy, Zoro, and Nami sail toward the Grand Line, Nami steps into the cabin and pulls out a small Denden Mushi. She makes a call, telling someone on the other end that she has the map. Episode 3, Tell No Tales. Episode 3 shifts gears and takes us to a quieter corner of the East Blue, but that peace doesn't last for long. For the past 7 years in Syrup Village, one voice has echoed through the streets every single morning. Usopp runs through town ringing a bell shouting that pirates are coming. At first, the villagers panicked, but year after year no pirates ever appeared. Now, instead of fear, Usopp is met with eye rolls, insults, and slammed doors. To the village, he's just a liar who won't grow up. Out at sea, Luffy proudly shows off the Jolly Roger he designed for what he calls the Straw Hat Crew, even though Nami and Zoro immediately remind him they are not a crew. Their argument is cut short when Zoro reveals a much bigger problem. The hidden compartment under the cabin floorboards, which he thought was a toilet, was filling with seawater. As Nami scrambles to save her belongings, she discovers her Denden Mushi earpiece is broken, cutting off her secret contact tied to the Grand Line map. With their ship slowly sinking, Luffy talks about getting a real ship, and Nami charts the closest place they can reach before going under: the Gecko Islands, which is home to a proper shipyard. Meanwhile, aboard Garp's battleship, Koby and Helmeppo work the rigging. When Helmeppo ties a sloppy knot, Koby quietly fixes it only to be scolded for stepping out of line. But when Garp arrives and asks who tied it, Helmeppo shifts the credit to Koby, expecting him to be punished. Instead, Garp praises the knot and invites Koby into his cabin. There, Garp challenges him to a game of Go. Koby loses the first match by playing too cautiously, trying not to lose instead of trying to win. Garp pushes him to change his mindset, and when Koby starts playing aggressively, he begins to win. Garp explains that pirates act first, so the Marines must do the same. Helmeppo then interrupts with news. Luffy's Jolly Roger has been recovered, and his crew has been traced to the Gecko Islands. Garp immediately sets course and officially promotes Koby to senior cadet, bluntly admitting Helmeppo only held the position because of nepotism. Elsewhere, Buggy returns to his circus, desperately trying to reassemble his body when a mysterious non-human man appears. Buggy tries to surprise him with a knife, but the stranger dodges effortlessly and knocks him out cold with a single punch. Buggy wakes up face to face with Arlong, the most famous pirate in the East Blue. Arlong demands tribute, and Buggy, having nothing, shifts the target instead. He tells Arlong about a rookie named Luffy and, more importantly, inadvertently about a map to the Grand Line. That immediately gets Arlong's attention and the hunt quietly begins. When Luffy, Zoro, and Nami arrive at Syrup Village, they head straight for the shipyard. Zoro spots Buggy's wanted poster and regrets not finishing the job, while Luffy reminds him that he's an outlaw now too. Luffy is drawn to one ship in particular, a vessel with a sheep's head on the bow. The moment he sees it, he knows it's special. That's when Usopp pops up and tells them the ship isn't for sale, but it belongs to a rich friend of his who owns the entire yard. He offers to take them to her. Usopp leads them to a massive mansion, sneaking around and clearly not as welcome as he claims. He is quickly confronted by caretakers Sham and Bucci until Kaya, the mansion's sickly owner, arrives. She warmly greets Usopp and invites the Straw Hats inside to celebrate her 18th birthday, despite her butler, Klahadore, strongly objecting. Before dinner, the crew is ordered to bathe and change. As they prepare, Luffy and Nami strike a deal. If Kaya gives them the ship, they'll take it honestly. If not, they'll steal a smaller one. Zoro, meanwhile, can't shake the feeling that Klahadore looks familiar, though he can't figure out why. Upstairs, Usopp gives Kaya a pearl for her birthday, which is very obviously just a rock. He spins an over-the-top pirate tale to sell it, and Kaya listens with genuine joy. At dinner, Luffy is finally given his moment and completely blows it. He casually announces they're pirates and walks across the table to ask for the ship. Before Kaya can answer, she begins coughing violently. Klahadore seizes the moment, trying to throw everyone out, but Kaya insists they stay the night. Later that evening, Merry confronts Klahadore in the wine cellar over his attempt to take control of Kaya's inheritance. Klahadore drops the polite act. In a blur of movement, he appears behind Merry and drives claw-like blades straight into his back. That same night, Luffy and Zoro sneak out for food and run into Usopp, who opens up about Kaya's past and his own. He reveals that his father left to become a pirate, and Luffy immediately realizes who that father is, Yasopp of the Red Hair Pirates. Meanwhile, Nami quietly steals valuables from the mansion only to accidentally walk into Kaya's room. Kaya quickly understands what's happening but says nothing. Instead, the two talk. Kaya admits her illness began after her parents died, and that Klahadore has controlled her life ever since. Before leaving, Nami tells Kaya not to let anyone decide her future, and returns every item she stole. Down in the cellar, Zoro and Usopp discover Merry's unconscious body. Klahadore steps out of the shadows with Sham and Bucci, his claws fully revealed. Zoro finally recognizes him as Kuro, the supposedly dead captain of the Black Cat Pirates. Kuro explains how he faked his death, then clashes violently with Zoro, but the fight ends abruptly when Sham smashes a bottle over Zoro's head. Zoro and Merry are thrown into a wall, their bodies discarded. When Bucci tries to take Zoro's swords, Sham forces him to dump them too, leaving no evidence behind. Usopp escapes and rings the village bell, screaming that pirates are coming, but no one takes him seriously. They laugh. They yell at him, just like every other time. The episode flashes back to reveal why Usopp started lying in the first place. As a child, he told his sick mother that pirates were coming because he believed his father would return with them. She encouraged the belief before she died. Back in the present, Usopp collapses in despair, completely alone, until someone finally speaks up. Koby steps forward and tells Usopp that he believes him, and with that, the storm around Syrup Village quietly begins to form. Episode 4. The Pirates Are Coming. Episode 4 opens at the bottom of a dry well, where Zoro lies battered but alive while Merry isn't so lucky. Zoro still has his swords, but that doesn't help much when he's trapped several feet underground with no way out. Above ground, Usopp desperately fills Koby in on everything. Kuro, the murder, the plan. Koby immediately believes him and is ready to act, but Helmeppo shuts it down, repeating his father Morgan's claim that Kuro died by his hand. Koby pushes past the doubt the moment he realizes something worse. Luffy is still inside the mansion with Kaya, and with Kuro, the Marines head straight for the house. Inside, Nami wanders into the kitchen and finds Luffy collapsed on the floor, his face stained blue from Kaya's special soup. She barely has time to process what's wrong before Bucci and Sham walk in, loudly discussing their plan and casually revealing that they're pirates and that Luffy should already be dead from the poison. They decide to dump the body just as Koby, Usopp, and Helmeppo arrive at the front door. Kuro greets them calmly, perfectly composed. Even Koby feels uneasy in his presence. Usopp tries to expose him, but Kuro turns Usopp's long history of lies against him. When Usopp suggests checking Kuro's gloves for blades and finds nothing, the Marines lose what little patience they had. Helmeppo admits they're really there looking for Luffy. Kuro claims Luffy is inside, then locks the Marines out while Bucci and Sham bring Luffy outside, hiding the poison. They hand Luffy over and Kobe tells Usopp he doesn't have enough proof to investigate Kuro. Before anything else can happen, Nami knocks Sham out cold with a frying pan and Usopp runs, determined to save Kaya himself. Back in the well, Zoro tries to build a grappling hook and fails. As he regroups, we flash back to his childhood at the Isshin Dojo. Young Zoro is beaten, again by Kuina, the only student stronger than him. He challenges her to a fight with real swords instead of practice blades, and Kuina accepts. Meanwhile, Usopp sneaks into Kaya's room and finally tells her the truth, that Klahadore is Captain Kuro and that Mary is dead. Kaya doesn't want to hear it. This isn't a fun story. This isn't a lie that she can smile through and tries to throw him out. But for once, Usopp doesn't run. In the kitchen, Kuro and Bucci discover Sham unconscious. Sham reveals that Nami overheard everything. When the clock strikes midnight, Kaya officially turns 18 and Kuro can finally take control of everything. He orders the house locked down, trapping everyone inside. Nami finds Kaya and Usopp hiding and tells Kaya the truth. She's been poisoned for years. Her illness wasn't random. It was Kuro. The timeline fits too perfectly to ignore. Kaya finally understands the danger she's in, and the three of them flee through a secret passage toward her parents' room, searching for the crank that controls the shutters. Back in the well, Zoro switches to plan B, climbing out by hand. As he scales the wall, another flashback cuts in. His duel with Kuina. Zoro arrives wielding two swords. Kuina uses just one, the white-hilted Wado Ichimonji. They fight without protection. Even though Zoro gives it everything he has, he still loses. In the past, he tells Kuina to just kill him. Instead, she helps him up and finally admits what's been eating at her. She believes that no matter how skilled she is, she'll eventually be surpassed, simply because she's a woman. Zoro doesn't accept it. He tells her that belief doesn't make it true, and there's nothing that more training can't overcome. The two set aside their rivalry and vow to train together, promising that one of them will become the greatest swordsman in the world. Back in Syrup Village, Kobe doubts his decision to walk away from Kuro, but Helmeppo mocks him, claiming Garp only trusts him because of his connection to Luffy. Their argument is cut short when Luffy finally wakes up, completely unfazed by the poison and immediately hungry. Helmeppo tries to provoke him and gets violently puked on instead. In Kaya's parents' bedroom, the weight of everything finally hits her. Nami keeps her grounded, pulling her back from panic as they find the crank, but the movement alerts Kuro to their location. The final flashback hits as Zoro makes one last climb. He waits for Kuina at sunrise, only for her father to tell him she died in an accident. At her funeral, Zoro asks to carry her sword along with his own, vowing to become the world's greatest swordsman for both of them. That promise gives him the strength to climb out of the well at last. Luffy begs Kobe to let him go back and help Kaya. Kobe hesitates and Helmeppo responds by trying to shoot Luffy. Zoro appears out of nowhere, knocks Helmeppo out cold, and he and Luffy sprint back to the mansion together. Inside, Kuro finally corners Kaya, Usopp, and Nami. He rants, humiliates Kaya, and blames her weakness, ignoring that he's the one who made her sick. When Nami and Kaya try to fight back, Kuro overwhelms them instantly. Just in time, Luffy and Zoro arrive. Zoro tears the shutters open with his bare hands and the crew splits up. Zoro takes on Bucci and Sham, while Luffy finds Kuro in Kaya's parents' bedroom. Kuro makes the classic villain mistake by talking too much. He rants about how piracy only led to being hunted and hated. Luffy pushes back, saying piracy is about freedom, adventure, and the people you choose to protect. By listening closely, Luffy finally catches Kuro mid-move and brings him down. Together, the crew defeats Kuro and his men for good. In gratitude, Kaya gifts them the ship Luffy fell in love with. He names it the Going Merry, honoring the man who tried to protect her. Luffy asks Usopp to join the crew, saying he wants a sharpshooter, just like Usopp's father. Kaya encourages him to chase his dream, and the two share a quiet, heartfelt goodbye. Out at sea, the Straw Hats, which are now 4, settle into their new home. A stocked kitchen, hammocks, space to breathe, and an Usopp-designed flag that Luffy absolutely hates. For a moment, things are peaceful. Then a marine ship pulls up alongside them. Luffy looks through a telescope and freezes when he sees Garp standing on deck, or as Luffy calls him,
Grandpa?
Grandpa?
Episode 5. Eat at Baradier. The episode picks up right where we left off, with the crew realizing that Luffy is actually the grandson of Vice Admiral Garp. We get a quick flashback showing that Garp wanted Luffy to be a Marine, but Luffy was always a pirate through and through. But Garp isn't playing around either, as he fires a massive cannonball at the brand new Going Merry, smashing their banister. The crew is officially in their first real fight at sea. Luffy tells Usopp to fire back while Nami and Zoro try to steer them away. They've got plenty of heart, but zero coordination. They don't even manage to fire a single shot before Garp literally throws a cannonball at them with his bare hands. Luffy inflates his chest and bounces it back, taking out Garp's sail and buying them time to escape. Interestingly, Garp looks proud of Luffy's move, which completely confuses Koby and Helmeppo. Moving on, Nami sails the crew into a thick fog to stay hidden. Since they're stuck waiting for it, Nami and Usopp nominate Zoro as first mate, to go check on Luffy. Zoro isn't exactly the talking about feelings type, so when Luffy won't open up, Zoro is happy to just drop it immediately. But when Nami can't navigate in the fog, Luffy suddenly becomes a master navigator and pulls them out by following his nose. He literally smells food and leads them straight to the front door of Baradier, a giant fish-shaped restaurant in the middle of the sea. The gang gets all dressed up to head inside. Luffy and Usopp try to win over the host by saying Luffy is the future king of the pirates, but it goes poorly. Nami has to slip the guy some money just to get them a table. They end up in a large booth, and while Zoro only sits next to Nami to make room for his 3 swords, my shipper heart is definitely happy to see them together. Over in the kitchen, we meet Sanji. He's a talented chef who's a bit of a rebel. He prepares a fancy bluefin sauté, but the head chef, Zeph, isn't happy about him going off menu. Zeph trashes the dish and kicks Sanji out to wait tables instead. In the dining room, Sanji proves he's more than just a cook by kicking 2 fighting customers to the floor. This immediately catches Luffy's eye. Sanji gives the crew a terrible sales pitch until he sees Nami, and he suddenly is the smoothest guy alive. The crew teases Nami about it, and you can tell she's actually starting to enjoy having friends around. Elsewhere, Garp is still on the hunt. Since his ship is damaged, he calls in Dracule Mihawk, a pirate who works for the government. We see Mihawk casually destroying a whole fleet using nothing but a massive sword called Yoru. The sword is so powerful that the wind from his swing splits a ship in 2. Garp asks him to find Luffy, and Mihawk accepts the job. Back at the restaurant, the Straw Hats are full and happy, but Nami brings the mood down by calling them out for being uncoordinated, and for Luffy lying about Garp. But before they can argue, Sanji brings the bill. Luffy signs it, thinking he can pay once he finds the One Piece. As you can imagine, Zeph is furious. He tells Luffy he has to wash dishes for an entire year to pay it off. While Luffy is stuck in the kitchen, he tries some of Sanji's cooking and realizes he's found his new crew member. Later, the rest of the crew heads to the bar. Nami is still upset and secretly asks about a boat to the Konomi Islands, meaning she's planning to leave the crew behind. Meanwhile, Koby finds Garp eating a mountain of steaks, and it turns out the love of meat is genetic. Koby is upset about the Marines hiring pirates like Mihawk, but Garp tells him the law isn't fair, and he has to decide if he can live with that. Back in the kitchen, a starving pirate named Jin wanders in. Even though he has no money, Sanji cooks for him because he can't let someone go hungry. Luffy is so impressed, he even offers Sanji a spot on his crew, but Sanji says no, and Jin warns them that his entire crew was just killed by someone terrifying. Right then, Mihawk arrives at the bar, led in by a very drunk Usopp. Zoro recognizes him as the greatest swordsman in the world and challenges him to a duel to the death. Nami tries to stop him, but Zoro says this is his dream. When Luffy supports Zoro's choice, Nami has had enough. She tells him she doesn't have any friends, grabs the map, and leaves for her own ship. At dawn, the duel begins. Zoro draws his 3 swords, but Mihawk pulls out a tiny little neck knife. It's a total insult, but Mihawk is so fast, he actually stabs Zoro in the chest. Zoro refuses to back down, saying he'd rather die than lose his dream. Mihawk is finally impressed and draws his massive sword to finish the fight properly. He shatters 2 of Zoro's blades and leaves a giant wound across his chest. In the end, Mihawk lets Zoro live, telling him to get stronger and come back for a rematch. He even lets Luffy go because he's curious to see what he'll do. As the crew worries about Zoro's survival, He vows on his last sword that he will never lose another fight until he becomes the greatest. It's a bold claim for a guy who can barely breathe, but this crew is nothing if not determined, so let's see what happens. Episode 6, The Chef and the Chore Boy. The episode kicks off with the Straw Hats rushing an unconscious Zoro into the ship's galley. Luffy is completely spiraling, which is weird to see, since he's usually so chill. Nami snaps him out of it and sends him back to Baratie to find a doctor. In the kitchen, Sanji is helping Zeph with the brunch rush, and even though Zeph is being his usual grumpy self, he agrees to help when he sees how desperate they are. Zeph stitches Zoro up using fresh yellowtail fish skin to stop the bleeding. Yeah, it's gross, but apparently it works. Zeph tells the crew they need to keep talking to Zoro to give him a reason to stay alive. Garp is back in his office and finds Mihawk waiting for him. Mihawk basically tells Garp he let Luffy go because he felt like it, reminding him that warlords don't usually take orders. Kobe is eavesdropping, as usual, and sees Garp absolutely trash his office in a rage. It seems Garp is taking this "my grandson is a pirate" thing way too personally. While they wait for Zoro to wake up, Sanji and Usopp are in the galley. Luffy is cleaning Zoro's sword and asks Sanji to cook Zoro's favorite food so he has a reason to wake up. Sanji starts telling them the story of how he and Zeph actually met. Years ago, Sanji was a young cook on a ship that got attacked by Zeph's pirate crew. A massive storm hit, the ship capsized, and Sanji and Zeph ended up stranded on a giant rock in the middle of the ocean. What follows is a pretty brutal 10-minute sequence. They're stuck on that rock for weeks with no way to get food. Zeph gives Sanji a small bag of food and keeps a massive bag for himself. By day 50, Sanji is starving and out of food, so he goes over to Zeph's side of the rock to kill him for the rest. But when he cuts open Zeph's bag, it's just full of gold and treasure. Zeph gave Sanji all the food and stayed alive for 85 days by eating, well, his own leg. He tells Sanji he did it because they share the same dream of finding the All Blue. It's dark, it's heavy, and it explains why Sanji never lets anyone go hungry. Back in the present, Nami is reading a story to Zoro about an explorer who lied to his loved ones. Luffy joins her, and she starts yelling at him for not stopping the duel. Luffy tries to get her to open up about what she wants, but she just storms out. Meanwhile, Kobe tries to convince Garp to just let Luffy be a pirate, but Garp decides to do the opposite. He tells his crew the mission has changed. They're going to capture the Straw Hats by any means necessary. Not a great sign for Kobe. Moving on, Baratie gets some very scary visitors. Arlong and his fishman crew show up looking for Luffy. Zeph tries to play it cool and pretends he's never met the kid, but Arlong isn't buying it. Nami sees them from a distance and realizes she needs to move fast. Back on the ship, Usopp tells Luffy to just keep talking to Zoro. Nami runs in panicking, telling them they need to leave before Arlong finds them. Luffy, being Luffy, is just flattered that a big shot pirate like Arlong even knows his name. He decides to go help Sanji protect the restaurant, and he tells Nami to stay behind and guard the map. Luffy, Usopp, and Sanji arrive at Baratie to face Arlong. It turns out Arlong tracked them using Buggy the Clown's head, specifically an ear that's been hidden in the ribbon of Luffy's hat the whole time. Talk about a literal earwig. Arlong demands the map and half of the future loot, but Luffy refuses, and a massive fight breaks out that spills onto the dock. While the boys are fighting, Nami says a quiet goodbye to Zoro, telling him she never wanted friends, so she wouldn't hurt anyone. She leaves the ship with the map in her hand. Back at the fight, Arlong douses Luffy in seawater, which drains his powers and leaves him helpless. Just as Arlong is about to kill him, Nami shows up. She reveals she's been a member of Arlong's crew all along, showing off the sawfish tattoo on her arm. She treats Luffy like he's nothing, and Arlong tosses him into the ocean to drown. Usopp and Sanji manage to pull Luffy out of the water, but he refuses to believe Nami betrayed them. Back at the restaurant, Zeph gives Sanji some tough love, basically telling him to stop wasting his life in the kitchen and go find the All Blue. Sanji finally agrees to join Luffy's crew and storms out. On the ship, Luffy finally finds the right words to say to Zoro. He admits he's scared of losing him, and that finally wakes the swordsman up. Zoro pledges his loyalty to Luffy, and the crew feels whole again. Well, Almost. The episode ends with the boys pulling out to sea, leaving Zeph behind in an emotional farewell. They're off to find Nami and bring her back, and they've got a very loudmouthed ally helping them out, Buggy's head. Episode 7, The Girl with the Sawfish Tattoo. Episode 7 starts with the boys heading out to find Nami, and since they lost their navigator, they're using Buggy the Clown's head as a literal GPS. Buggy is being his usual self, and the crew is already fed up with him. Usopp starts making fun of Buggy's comedy skills, while Zoro just wants to throw him into the ocean. While Sanji tries to catch some fish, Luffy admits he's worried about Nami. Sanji is convinced she's innocent because she's pretty, while Zoro is convinced she's a traitor because of that sawfish tattoo. But Luffy doesn't care about the rumors, though he just wants to hear the truth from Nami herself. Moving on, we get a flashback to Nami's childhood in Koko Village. We see a young Nami, her sister Nojiko, and their adoptive mother, Belle-Mère, living happily in a tangerine grove. But back in the present, that happiness is long gone. Nami is back at Arlong Park, which is basically an abandoned carnival. She meets with Arlong, and the relaxed version of Nami we saw with the straw hats is completely gone. She's cold and shut off again. We learn that she and Arlong have a deal, and she's determined to see it through. Arlong sends her to her own village to collect tribute, which is basically protection money. Elsewhere, Garp and his crew arrive at Baradier and demand to see Chef Zeph. Garp is still on his mission to stop Luffy, and Zeph basically tells him to stay out of the way of the new generation. We finally understand why Garp is so obsessed, and that's because Luffy reminds him of Gold Roger, and as the man who executed the Pirate King, he doesn't want to see his grandson meet the same fate. Back at Koko Village, the Straw Hats see the total destruction the fishmen have caused. They see Nami arrive, but instead of a hero's welcome, she gets dirty looks from everyone. Even her sister Nojiko spits on her. Through more flashbacks, we see how Arlong first invaded the village 8 years ago. In the present, Nami tells the Straw Hats she was just conning them the whole time and doesn't need their help. The guys are split on what to do, but they decide to stay and talk to Nojiko. Sanji eventually sweet-talks their way into her house by offering to cook a meal. Next, we see Arlong meeting with a corrupt marine named Captain Nezumi, a guy who literally has rodent whiskers, but Arlong is paying him off to look the other way. There's a lot of tension here, with Arlong talking about how fishmen are superior to humans, which is a bit weird considering half the population in this world are hybrids. But hey, Arlong is the villain for a reason. Once the marine leaves, Nami tells Arlong she finally has the 100 million berry she promised him to buy back the village. Arlong tells her she has until sunrise to deliver it, but the second she leaves, he immediately schemes with the corrupt marine to steal it back. At Nojiko's house, we finally get the full heartbreaking backstory. When the fishmen first arrived, they demanded money for every person, 100,000 for adults and 50,000 for kids. Belle-Mère only had 100,000 total. She hid the girls under the floorboards, but she couldn't bring herself to lie and say she didn't have children. She used her only money to pay for Nami and Nojiko's lives instead of her own. Arlong killed her right in front of them. The Straw Hats are stunned to learn that Nami joined Arlong's crew just so that she could earn enough money to buy the village's freedom. Luffy heads up to the roof to think, and Zoro actually follows him to talk. Luffy tells Zoro he's tired of hearing about Nami from everyone else. He remembers that he didn't give up on Zoro during his duel, so he's not giving up on Nami now. Meanwhile, Koby and Telmeppo are at Baradier getting drunk. Koby accidentally lets slip that Garp and Luffy are related, but they also manage to bribe the bartender for info on where Luffy is headed. Finally, Nami goes to the Tangerine Grove to dig up her 100 million berry. Nojiko catches her, and Nami finally admits the truth about her secret deal. But just as they're talking, Captain Nezumi shows up and confiscates all the money. Nami realizes Arlong set her up as he never intended to let the village go. She tries to stop the Marines, but it's of no use. Overwhelmed by years of trauma and betrayal, Nami breaks down in the middle of the path and starts stabbing her own sawfish tattoo. Luffy shows up and stops her. Even though he doesn't fully understand the politics, he knows his friend is hurting. Nami finally stops fighting and through tears asks him for help. In the most iconic moment of the season, Luffy puts his prized straw hat on her head and promises to take Arlong down. The episode ends with the boys walking toward Arlong Park, and you just know it's about to go down. Episode 8, Worst in the East. The finale kicks off with the Straw Hats returning to Cocoa Village as the sun comes up. The place is in ruins, and the villagers are finally at their breaking point. Even though Nami tries to talk them out of a suicide mission, they're determined to retake their home or die trying. Meanwhile, on Garp's ship, that corrupt Captain Nezumi shows up to lie through his rodent teeth. He tries to blame the entire Arlong mess on Luffy, but Koby calls him out on it immediately. Garp isn't interested in politics, since he just wants to know exactly where Luffy is. Moving on, the Straw Hats officially storm Arlong Park. While Zoro, Usopp, and Sanji handle the guards outside, Luffy and Nami head straight for the map room. Arlong catches them there and goes on a long rant about his plan to build a Fishman empire to rule the East Blue. Luffy doesn't really care about the empire talk, he just takes issue with Arlong trying to use Nami like a tool, instead of respecting what she actually wants. The fight scenes in this finale are easily the most fun of the whole season. Usopp gets chased into the woods by a fishman and has to use every lie and smoke bomb in his arsenal to win. He actually manages to take the guy down, but then he has this crushing realization that his first truly heroic act had absolutely no witnesses. Classic Usopp. Meanwhile, Zoro and Sanji spend as much time arguing with each other as they do fighting the fishmen. Buggy, who is still just ahead, gets so annoyed that he asks them to put him back together so that he can help, which obviously just means run away. Their rivalry finally settles down when they clear the yard together, with Zoro admitting that Sanji's habit of calling out his finishing moves actually makes him a good fit for the crew. Back in the map room, the showdown between Luffy and Arlong hits its peak. Luffy decides to destroy the one thing that kept Nami a prisoner all these years, the room itself. He brings the entire building crumbling down, crushing Arlong in the process. With the fishmen defeated, the village is finally free, but Garp arrives just in time to crash the party. He orders Koby to arrest the Straw Hats, but Koby refuses. Even Helmeppo surprises everyone by refusing to step in. Up next, we get the big family showdown. Garp and Luffy have it out, and Garp packs a way harder punch than Arlong ever did. He knocks Luffy through several buildings without even getting a stain on his crisp white suit. But no matter how much he gets beaten down, Luffy refuses to give up on his dream of becoming the king of pirates. Garp finally sees that Luffy is the real deal, the next Gold Roger, and decides to let the Straw Hats go. He reveals the whole chase was just a test to see how serious Luffy really was. Koby is stunned it was that easy, and honestly, so are we. As the crew prepares to leave, Nami visits Belmare's grave to say goodbye and shows off her new tattoo, which is a mix of a tangerine and a pinwheel. Koby comes to say goodbye to Luffy too, and he brings a gift, Luffy's first wanted poster. He's officially the worst in the East, with a 30 million berry bounty. They part ways as friends, knowing they'll be on opposite sides from here on out. Meanwhile, Garp decides to take Koby and Helmeppo under his wing for some actual training. Anywho, news of the Straw Hats starts spreading across the world. Kaya sees Usopp's face on the poster, and Buggy and Alvida decide to team up to hunt Luffy down. Even Mihawk brings the news to Captain Shanks and his crew, who force the grumpy swordsman to stay and celebrate with them. Back on the Going Merry, the crew surprises Nami with a grove of tangerine trees, and she reveals the surprise they all made for Luffy, their official Jolly Roger flag. They end the season with a cast-off ceremony, propping their legs on a barrel and declaring their dreams to find the All Blue, to become the king of pirates, the world's greatest swordsman, to draw a map of the world, and to become a brave warrior of the sea. The season ends with a short glimpse of a man in a room full of cigar smoke, setting Luffy's poster on fire. That's Mr. O, better known as Crocodile, and it looks like the Grand Line is going to be even more dangerous than the East Blue. Anyway, that's the crazy story of how a rubber boy and his brand new crew officially became the most wanted pirates in the East Blue. Be sure to check out some more of our other videos that are hopefully a little less chaotic than Buggy's circus. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you in the next one as we head straight for the Grand Line.